Okay.
Okay, good morning. This is going to be my usual spiel of for those of you that have joined already. Just bear with us a minute. We want to let the other people who are joining filter in. So just hang tight for a second, and then I'll start my introductions, etc., in about a minute. We were a little bit late launching this one live today, so I'll just give it another 30 seconds or so before we get going. All right, so it's 11:02, so I'm going to get started. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our webinar series. Today is it's kind of an exciting one because this is actually going to be a series of, I think we're going to do 12 in total, all about franchising for your business, and also buying into a franchise. So we're going to have, over the next coming months, a series of 12 webinars. You don't have to have been to all of them because, as usual, we will have them on our website or on our YouTube channel. We're recording it now and it will be available on our YouTube channel. And it's always going to be Mariel presenting. Now, we may have some other guest presenters as well, but so we have a wealth of knowledge here. I'm going to introduce my good friend Mariel Miller, who is the owner of the Franchise Advisor. She's been a long-standing volunteer over here at SCORE, or rather subject matter expert over here at SCORE. She's done a number of webinars and also in-person seminars for us over the years. And she has a ton of knowledge about franchising. Today's series is the franchise route, and it's about whether or not you should consider franchising your business. I don't know how many of you in Monmouth County are aware of Crumble Cookies, but I always use them as a really good example. I think they were Oregon-based or business, and they became a TikTok phenomenon. It was a couple of brothers who opened their bakery, started selling cookies, went out on TikTok somehow, and even my niece came to visit from England a couple of months ago, and she said, I have to go to Crumble Cookies because they're such a sensation, and they franchised their business because they realized they had something franchisable. So and I'm only sort of leading with that because it is attainable for a lot of businesses, and I think it's something that we don't, as small business owners, know a huge amount about. So that's right. That's really why I brought that up. Just a couple of small housekeeping things. So we are SCORE Monmouth. We are a small business mentoring entity. We help businesses in Monmouth County, although we do support national, SCORE has a national representation. So if you are looking for a mentor for your business, please do reach out. And if you are looking to volunteer in any way, shape or form, or feel you have something you can give back with, also, please do reach out. We will take questions and answers. We welcome questions. We think they're great. We think it keeps the dialogue going. And if there's anything that we haven't covered, we'll address it then and there. As I said, it will be on our YouTube channel as well. So feel free to go there a couple of days from now and you'll be able to replay this webinar. And I think that's, and questions, sorry, just one other thing, questions, if you could put them in the Q&A so we can measure them and make sure we get to all of them. The chat is a little bit harder to manage, so would prefer the Q&A. If you can, please do that. And on that note, I'm going to hand over to you, Mariel.
Thank you. Good morning. It's good to see you. I'm really excited about the program that we're putting together. And thanks to everyone who is live with us now, and those of you watching after today. We hope to bring you some really good insight and introduce you to some great people and answer some questions with a lot of transparency, a lot of resources, because I firmly believe, I've been in the business since 1988. We have never seen the landscape look the way it does today. There's never been more activity, more opportunity, just more resources, more information, great people, networking, an enormous amount of growth opportunity for the right brands. And so my team and I here in New Jersey work nationally, just talking to business after business and giving them either the answers or the folks that can answer their questions. So I am really excited to work with you once again. Claire, we've had a lot of fun in the past, and we haven't done this topic yet. So So here we go. Let me go ahead and take the screen then. So I can screen share now, correct? Yeah, okay. Excuse me. Okay, so let me do this and kind of get going here. And I want to start here, turning your business into a national brand. And it's certainly a reasonable goal for you if you currently have a small business, for sure. So what's going on in franchising? This is the New York show. It's always a huge show. What's the attention and what's the draw? We thought that we would cover pretty much the reality of what this takes. What does the franchise route look like? And how do you get your questions answered? So today is sort of our intro to the topic. We're going to go over the basics, right? And not too much, because you can certainly learn all you want on the internet about what it is and what it was, where franchising came from and all of that. But then there's a limit to what you're going to learn on the internet because it's overwhelming, right? So then we want to look at the businesses or your business and the components of a business and what makes a strong brand. We want to talk about the common blind spots that people have moving forward. And then the blueprint, which will be a different conversation probably the next time we're together. You know, the blind spots that you're going to have in your business about going forward, and the ability for you to calculate your potential for success and really kind of figure the risks in front of you. You know, it's also very individual. There's obviously a general route forward, which most people really don't know the whole picture. The idea of looking at businesses in general, common blind spots, common blueprints is one great conversation, but it's all extremely tailored and individualized to you. And it all really starts with the goal, the outcome that you're looking for. And it is very different, even though it seems like it's the same, right? An iconic brand, but it's very different. So once we take a look at what's a general blueprint, then a really interesting conversation are your options for the build. And the build is where the expertise is needed. You know, how do you really go out there and find the right people to become your partners, your franchisees? And lastly, we want to have a conversation, or we want to introduce you to some people that are all about the buyout. You know, starting with the end in mind is an old, I forgot who even first said that, Stephen Covey back in the day, 7 Habits, right? Beginning with the end in mind, it's how we help our people who are looking at franchising. We start with the end in mind. Could franchising get you there? Could it change your life? In the same way, you, our clients that are small, or our friends that are small business owners, you know, we want to start with the end in mind. And first, the vast majority of people, if you could do this in an accelerated fashion, and you could take your idea, your solution to a problem, and, you know, leverage what you've learned and do it, not over 20 years, which was typical for so many iconic brands we know, you know, do it in an accelerated fashion, do it in a, you know, with this idea of build, grow, and exit. We should talk, because that's what brands are doing today in every category, you know, that we're in. You know, franchising is in every category, over 70. And so this is what we're going to be covering. If you can't wait and meet with us every month or every other month, you know, we're happy to chat with you at any time and just kind of like nail it for your brand. So let's talk about franchising, right? And these are the only kind of cocktail party stats I'll give you, because again, you could find a lot of this on the internet. But what's the truth about it? So franchising is a distribution model. You have options, right? Your options include, if you have a good business that's providing a good service, you could use franchising. You could use licensing. You could use network marketing. You could do company-owned units, or any vast combination of all of those. You could do joint venture partnerships, right? You could do a lot. And like I advise my clients looking at a brand, you know, or looking at franchising, you should be perhaps, or it would be advantageous if you were to be looking at other things too, right? So if you're looking at, say, like investing in a franchise, you should be looking at investing in, I don't know, gold or whatever else you're doing, right? Or put it in the market or whatever, so that you have a nice comparison. In the same way, one of the initial conversations is, and that's today's conversation, is like, who makes for a good brand? And in my vocabulary, like a good move to franchise, a good brand, this is a good option, it's viable. It means it's going to move at a good or accelerated pace. That's the question, right? You're going to kind of get that, right? So, okay, so why franchising? Why is it doing what it's doing today, right? So, there's just hundreds of thousands of businesses that are franchised. Look at the employment, right? 7.5 million people are employed by franchises. There's the economic output. Those are pretty big dollars. Here's why that's true. Because franchising has entered its fifth decade of a regulated industry, regulated by the FTC. Back in the 70s, great story with Reagan, back why and how that happened. Anyway, that's when it went from an idea to a regulated, transparent, right, industry or business strategy. And we're hitting like 50-something years now. So imagine if
Mariel, I have a question. Mm-hmm. Sorry. So how much is that growth? How does that bell curve go on the growth, or the expansion of franchising as an industry? Was it, steep in the beginning and now it's leveling off, or is it becoming more and more popular to explore the franchising route for your business?
That's a really good question. What I'll do for next time is I'll get some statistics and some graphs on that. So continual growth projections. I don't have the actual numbers with me right now, but I think we could look at the next 5 and 10 years. I think we should probably do that.
Okay, great.
Yeah, from the 70s. That'd be really interesting. And I have all those numbers. I just didn't collect them. But yeah, that's great. These are my favorite statistics, right? So here we go. 1 out of every 12 businesses is a franchise. That's pretty much a surprise to most people. And here's the one, for the cheese tray that you now know, my absolute favorite. A new franchise business is opened every 8 minutes of every business day. So that's kind of fun. And that's one of the reasons why, we're building a team here, and we have folks that are helping find you guys franchisees. That's what we do. That's half of what we do. So
when you say a new franchise business is opened every 8 minutes of every business day, that means somebody is turning their business into not a person buying a franchise, but somebody is turning their business into a franchise every 8 minutes, or is it a person buying a franchise every 8 minutes?
It's the first of those two, right? It's so every 8 minutes, someone opens their doors as a new franchise investor or business owner. Yeah, in the US. It's a huge number. Yeah, it's a huge number. A lot of activity, and that activity is continually increasing. And that activity, by the way, does well regardless of the economy. So if you think about it, regardless of the economy, we're busy helping people figure out, should they invest in a franchise as a career option, career replacement, as an investment strategy, even as a passive wealth building strategy. So we pivot. If the economy is strong, we have more people who want to become passive or semi-passive, move their money, diversify. If the economy is a little wacky, if employment, is either on the rise or not good at all, people are, not expecting to leave, but leave their jobs. Of course, we double down on those folks that are in between careers, right? So we always have people, regardless, that are interested in learning about entrepreneurship, in learning about, building their own business and doing it through franchising. And that's really terrific, because in today's day and age, with the internet, with the need to understand marketing, need to be a genius to be on the first page of Google and all of that, it is a safer bet. If anyone is looking to open their own business, unlike the folks on the call today, entrepreneurial, started something and you'll become the franchisor. So many people see what I want to do is being done. I could check it out. I could talk to people doing it in a franchise, and I could mitigate my risk, and I could have a cooperative team assisting me and wanting me to succeed. And so it's becoming an option that more people are, looking into, and that's good for you guys who might be considering the route. So it's a distribution model, but there are others. Those of you that have already franchised your business, and I know some of the folks I'm talking to are on the call, You may have done a really good analysis of which way to go, but I want to give you some insights about that, today. So what does the business owner look like? What are the small businesses that should, generally consider the route? So let's talk about their objectives, right? Their desires. So number one, you want to build real wealth. You want to build massive wealth. You're an empire builder. You are a, go big or go home kind of a guy, right? People that, we talk to all the time, a lot of times it's about a legacy. It's either a legacy of what they've done or it's legacy wealth, right, for a family. Others are more about, their name, their brand, or a combination of those, building something iconic. And then, the other desires that are all sort of part of that list for why you might be on this call and why you might go forward. You as a franchisor, you have a product or service, you just really know it works. And I'm thinking of the folks that I know on the call now, just helping seniors, you know what you do makes a difference and you want to help everyone. And that's just admirable and that's fantastic and that's a great driver. You also create jobs and you also create careers. I spent 13, 14 years after graduate school in franchises, and I had an amazing career because I happened to land in the right place at the right time. People believed in me, and I like grabbed this, hooked my, what do they say, wagon on franchises, and they ran, and I got the ride of my life. The career creating, and I'm just an advocate and a mentor to folks that want a career in franchising. But you also are no longer in your business. Like you're in your business, but you're not really. You're really in the business of developing and mentoring and, cultivating entrepreneurs and their dreams. You are a creator of the American dream again and again and again. And it's just an amazing place to be that, you could give someone the tools to do what you've done in a shorter period of time because of your mistakes, right? And it's a magnificent legacy to leave that you've done that. And lastly, there are those folks, and it's really fun to find, that have something so unique. They know that they have like this first mover advantage. And if you want to capitalize on first mover, people aren't doing it either your way, or they're not doing it, but it works. And you see the demand, that you found a problem that you solve. And there's a sustainability to that. You need to look at franchising because it is the vehicle with the ability to do this very quickly if it's done right. So those are some of the key reasons, right? Something in there probably struck a chord with some of you, hopefully. That's kind of who you are. Maybe it's a combination of all of them. And so franchising versus the other options, which we can't get into right now because it would be just too general and not helpful to you. Individually, it might. But there are common denominators that kind of cutting to the chase when this is your choice. And so one of the first ones is that, again, you want to do all those things, right? So that's a given, right? But you don't have the cash, because if you had the cash or you're open to the infusion of capital or access to it, you might want to go company owned, right? In fact, Starbucks, company owned, you guys. People think it's a franchise. They franchised 1,000 or something units at one point, but company owned is possible, right? Walmart, you can do that. However, there are those of us that have limited time or talent, or more often tolerance, right? Risk tolerance, that is, given the economy, for the tremendous human resource efforts to manage company stores. Those two things, sometimes they're flipped, but usually those are the two reasons why people are going to do the franchising model. But there's more, and these are the important ones, I think, because those are obvious, right? Those are obvious. So here's a reason why you don't even have an option. You don't have an option. I could charge you and tell you that, not that I would as a score person, but if you provide a service, product, service, but service, that requires some level or a greater level of control for the outcome. Or, for example, the experience, right? If your success or your consistent deliverability of that success, needs to be controlled, you really don't have a license and distribution option. So, for example, if you had a franchise, or the distribution for a Ford, you could sell trucks and cars, and you probably could sell them at a flea market or in your front yard. They're not going to come in and design your showroom, because the control of the outcome, the control of the final product, the car, is controlled by them. You can do it any way you want. But franchising's real name is business format franchising. That's what we're talking about. We're not talking about the NFL. We're not talking about Harry Potter. And we're not talking about Ford. That's a brand franchise, right? Or product franchise. So it's about control. And I want to talk more about that next, right? Secondly, this is an important thing people tend not to, I guess, add into should I, could I, will I, right? Your business is optimal, if not 100% must, be done locally. It's important. Franchising works because no matter what's going on in the economy, including Bezos and including Corona and including all of it, consumers consume, and there are those things that have to be done on a local level, right? Your business has to be done locally, must be done locally, you're good. If it's better locally, you should consider it. So there's someone on the call now who's got an amazing retail business, and I won't mention it because it's very cool and it's very, very unique, and we're talking right after the call. One of my questions, because we just met, is about this can be done on the internet, but yet there is a successful retail in a mall, right? What that probably looks like is the experience of this product situation, which is local, right, is significant, if not required, right? So like, for example, a CBD store, they're being franchised, right? You could buy CBD products online. How does that work? Why should it work? Same thing for a cigar store, olive oil, like that. So to the degree that you have that local requirement, oil change all day long, haircuts all day long, right? And then lastly, as we said earlier, you want to seriously consider this route if your ultimate goal is the exit, right? And you want to weigh that out. Do you have a shot at that? Because as I shared with everyone I talked to, it's a narrow, very narrow path, and there is a way. And we know the way, we see it, we've done it, watching it, but it's narrow. And you want to know what your possibilities are if that's one of your goals. You're going to have better opportunity there than your other options, as far as I've seen. So we're going to talk about systems. So why is it about the systems? And I think that almost as the number one trigger for you to say, is my business franchisable? Could I, should I, would I? If you want control over, like I said, the product delivery, the service delivery, the format, how it's done. And when I say how it's done, not just delivering the pizza, whatever, doing the exercise routine, beyond that, right? Marketing, there's a way you want it marketed. It could be any of these systems, but primarily it's the quality of this output, right? And I think you know why that is.
Is there a different system or different process or different structure for franchising services over franchising product? If so, maybe you have a home health care business that's a franchise, or maybe you have an olive oil store, right? So both are completely different models. One's selling product and one's selling a service. Is there a different system or structure or something you should think about if that was the case? Or is it still the same overall concept, maybe executed slightly differently, but still the same overall concept? That's
a great question. I'm going to say that while many franchises have products inside of them, Pet Supplies Plus, for example, is a superstore, and they're fantastic. They're doing great, for pet products, right? So that's a little bit different. You go to a Yoga 6 and you could buy probably about 10, I don't know, probably 10%, maybe revenue comes from product. So we see products inside of brands. Primarily, business format franchising is a fit for services, because it contains all of the controls for something. We work with a franchise for psychological services. And you say, scratch your head, you say, wait a minute, how do you standardize and how do psychological help? That's really like out there. We have franchises for coaching, business coaching franchises, right? Well, that's very intangible, right? So you could really, if it's a business format, it's perfect for services. So if all you have is a product, that's what you're up to is a product, then you probably have more options along the lines of the network marketing route, the licensed route. But I will tell you, important to know, biz opportunity and licensing and franchising, it's getting it's gray. It's kind of gray. And businesses that want to avoid the costs to franchise, and they use other choices without really good legal advice, are doing what's called inadvertent franchising. And so there's the potential for a lot of problems. If it looks like a duck and it smells like a duck, if you are sharing your brand, trade name, or most likely, requiring the use of your name, and you're charging any fees, there's a certain number, I believe it's 5,000, but I'm not sure, don't quote me. We can find that out certainly online. And this was the third leg of the stool is gray, but it's if you're requiring or giving them advice or counsel, or you're giving them protocols, help, right? Support. If you're doing those three things and you haven't gone through the processes to franchise and to register in registration states correctly, you are absolutely going to have yourself a lot of problems. You don't want to do that. So you want to definitely flesh these things out the right way to make your choice. So that's a really good question. But if it's just a product, it's different. Can I give you a quick story, quick example?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I was more surprised, I think, than, I don't know, anyone. But so I had a phone call from a Canadian gal, and they have a product, and the product is a hair product. And I thought, well, we're not going to franchise a hair product, but I'll talk to them because I speak with everybody who has any question, because I just love talking about this stuff and helping people. So I talked to her, and it wasn't 2 or 3 phone calls where we're designing a franchise. We really are. And it's very exciting. And the reason is that the product has a service attached to it. And that service, right, the service, imagine like something similar to, say, like a Brazilian or whatever, the straightening type of a thing, but based in a certain product. So the product has a service to it. So there's another person, I think perhaps on the call, that has a very neat business having to do with the protection of roofs. So that's a product. My recommendation, which helped find out probably, I think we're speaking tomorrow, is absolutely, we should start looking at how in the world to do that in a franchise model because of the amazing opportunities today. You don't have to, right? You can distribute product to any network you want and walk away. But because the product, is actually really the application of it and the maintenance of it is a service, we can wrap that into business protocols. And again, depending on the dollars and cents of it all, it very well might work out. So these are really fun conversations to have with people because we get what I like to call conversations of possibility. Like really what is possible, right?
So does it ever happen again, sort of, I'm me ever the cynic, right? Okay, I decided to franchise my business. I have this amazing service that I want to provide that I think would be a good model for franchising. And then you have a potential franchisee come in and say, well, that's great. I could just do this myself without you. Why do I need to buy a franchise? Does that ever open you up to exposure if you're kind of looking to franchise your specific thing? And then so you go down that road of, okay, I'm gonna go the franchise route. And then, people don't buy in, franchisees don't buy in because, oh, well, I could do this myself. Now I know it's a good business model. Why don't I go out and just do that myself? Does that ever happen? Or do people who are potentially buying franchises not want the system and the infrastructure already to be in place, so they just add to it?
Let me think.
Yeah.
100% of the time. All day. Happens all day.
Okay.
Think about it. Lawn Doctor, right? New Jersey based, iconic franchisor, tons of franchisees. It's taking care of your lawn. I mean, there is no secret sauce there.
Yep.
And even when let's talk about secret sauces. I mean, I don't know how to cook, but I can make a better burger than most burger chains, really, probably, right?
Yep.
So yeah, so it's a really, really good point. And so I think as we get into analyzing these businesses together on our call, and then what we're trying to create, I like to say what good looks like. I like to show people what does it look like inside of a high performing franchise brand, because that's what you're going to grow up to be. So you better look at that and see if you want to do that, right? So, but what about the new guy? I remember back in 2005, it was 6 or 7, I think. I worked with a gentleman out of Arizona who had one store of kids' bounce houses called Bounce You. He had one location. And honestly, the way he designed it, and the reason he designed it is he was going to buy a franchise, and he went to Pump It Up, which was the only competitor. They had about 200 units. It took them 20 years. I think about 20. I could be wrong on that. Could have been 10, but it was a large amount of years to get that many. And they had successful stores. And he went through due diligence, which is a 6 to 8 week process that every single candidate goes through. And you guys are going to design a standard protocol to put people through, and it has to be regulated. There's things legal you need to know about that. So he goes through the process to buy one, and he goes, you know what? I have money. I'm going to do my own. And it happens all day long. And what happened, the long story on that was we joined forces. We ended up building Bounce You to, I believe it was 99 sold territories in 2 years. And about 50 were open. And we opened them all up and down the East Coast. I remember taking my kids to do these openings. It was really, really fun. It's a great, fun kid business, right? And then they were acquired by private equity. And the private equity came in, purchased Pump It Up, and then said, wait a minute, these guys here, these guys, it took 10 or whatever many years to get to that number. These guys, almost 100 in 2 years, we better buy them too. And so they bought both of them. And that's the kind of cool stuff that happens out there, if you can build it and sell it. But the point to your question is that happens all day long. There's tons of stories of that, right? Mm-hmm. And it's okay, because you have to show your brand the right way through the due diligence. The due diligence process for the candidate is very interesting. They have to go through this process and believe that you have your act together and you're going to help them be successful. And there's a value prop. What is the value equation? And how do you share that with a candidate without giving away your proprietary and confidential trade secrets? Because if I own one and you have a sales guy in that room talking to every Tom, Dick, and Harry, telling them everything, they didn't pay a $50,000 franchise fee, right? I'm not going to be happy as an owner. And it's also not smart. Yet you need to do it. You want to make a sale. You want to bring him in. He's a good guy, whatever. How do you fine line, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah. So that's a really interesting point. And that question, really points to what are the right questions to ask to determine should you franchise your business. People are asking the wrong questions, which I think we can hit real quick now. These are the questions that we get every day. So this is like the big question. Should I franchise my business? Or people want to know, is my business franchisable? And ultimately, right, is it franchisable? Is one of the better questions to ask. People want to know what it costs to franchise their business. So the way that, if I can just speak to these three questions, right? And then invite anybody on the call or who's listening to this, give me a call. I'll give you my number. Fastest thing to do is text me. Happy to talk to you and get you answers, get you some answers and work with you. And we don't charge for this, want to work with you to, if it's something you should do, you might want to collect different proposals and all that stuff, but you have to see the route, right? Which we're going to tell you. So the should I franchise my business is a very personal question to answer once you have other questions answered. So we'll start at the top. So is my business franchisable? Okay. It's almost like this. Should I get a driver's license? Should I? Okay, well, probably, yeah, probably. You probably should. Again, it's based on if you want to go places, if you want to, could you afford a car, whatever, but some people shouldn't. So it's a very difficult thing, depends on who you ask. What do you mean by franchisable? What are you trying to do? So is my business franchisable? There's a better way to kind of ask that question. And it's about your probability of getting to your goal. Your goal. What is your goal? Because some people, they just want to be regional. They just want to open 12 or something like that. Other people have larger picture. There's just all kinds of questions about that. And then, is this the best route, right? But the idea of, is my business franchisable? You're kind of saying, could I duplicate myself? And we could have like an hour call, really, and kind of get closer to that. But then there's the next level. And the next level is, let's just say, yeah, sure, this could work. Okay.
So you start with your exit, you almost start with what's my exit strategy first, right? What do I
kind of, yeah. What are you trying to do, right? Yeah. What are you really trying to do? And could you get there, and should you get there with franchising? But the problem is that it depends on who you ask. And if you ask folks that franchise businesses for a living, they'll probably say yes. Because is my business franchisable means could I franchise it? Basically, what you're doing is you're getting your documentation together. Getting your documentation together, putting you on the map. Every year, 300 to 400 businesses franchise. That means they hit our landscape. That means that they legally register. What does that mean? You do the required forms, you create the required documentation. You are now deemed a franchise, meaning you are a saleable entity. You have a prospectus, like a stock. You can talk, if you learn how, you can talk to candidates and make offers. You can offer your business. It's a legal investment. You become an investment. So should you do it? I know that there are people who franchise an idea and a trademark, and then they disappear a lot of the times. But, is it franchisable? Lots of things are franchisable. It's really about should you do it? And the should you has to do with your probability for success. And that is based on a lot of stuff, right? So we're assuming your business works. Let's assume that your business works. You found a problem and you're solving it in a certain way. It doesn't have to be a secret. You're finding a way in which you solved a problem, and you have systems around the core components of that business, and it's working to some degree. What you really want to know would be this question, right? If I become a franchise, will it move? That's what you want to know, because you become a product. You become a product. For example, as a franchise advisor broker, we have a portfolio. We have like 250, 300 brands. Each of those brands, okay, that we've curated, we've vetted and curated, and we help, they're products. in, about probably 30 different categories, right? Will yours will it get into my portfolio or anyone like who does what I do? And if it's in there, will it move? That's a very different question. And the reason why we talk to people is because folks like us, anyone you find that does the work we do, we're talking to buyers all day. So you want to talk to someone who's talking to buyers all day because you want to know who's buying what do they expect, right? So that's the way to ask that question. The second question, the last question, I'm sorry, what does it cost to franchise my business? And so I know you want some answers on this, and I will give people answers. I have nothing to hide because I don't do that work any longer, but I know good people who do it. What does it cost to franchise my business? This is probably the best analogy. That would be like a young couple deciding to have a child and evaluating the costs of the delivery room and the doctor to make that decision. That's exactly the same. Here's why it's the same. Because you're making 100% commitment based on about 5% of what's important. That's exactly what happens when people say, what does it cost to franchise my business? Here's what it's going to cost to franchise your business, to become a franchise. Let's see, maybe like $1,500 to $100,000. That's what it's going to cost you. Depending on how much of this are you going to do yourself? Because you could even maybe get some templates and erase the word donut shop and put, cat parlor, whatever your business might be, right? Register your documents. You can do a divorce on your own. You could spend $100,000 worth, right? So it's the same thing. So if all we're talking about is creating you as a product, it's very dangerous to ask the question because that's all you're going to hear. And now you're on the map. And out of the 400 annual businesses that franchise, the last I've heard, this is pre-coronavirus, approximately 20% will be left after 4 years. And out of those, less than 80% of those, less than 20% of those will ever even envision 100 units. The vast majority of franchises never get out of 20, 30, 40 units. They just sit there. There is nothing wrong with that math, by the way, if you did the math on royalty fees on that, but that's the truth of it. And so what is the question? If I can leave you with something insightful, what is the question to ask? Let's just start with asking the right question. So then you can collect the information, and it takes time, like anything that is worthwhile. Like I said, we have two answers when people say, should I franchise my business? The answer is either no, that's easy, or you deserve to find that out. Let's find that out. Those are the only two answers, right? Because it takes some time. So here's one of the better questions to ask. Is franchising a viable path to scale, given the investment, the return, and my likelihood of success? So as an example, give you an example. Let's just say you have a business and you would like to shoot for this great big exit because you have something that works and you are a go big or go home kind of guy. And you don't need a big brand. You don't need a secret sauce. You really don't. And you don't need millions of dollars. I can assure you of that. You do need money, but you don't need a tremendous amount of money depending on your choices, okay, along the way. So what you need is to know the way and to know the choices along the way. That's kind of how you figure this out, right? And then create a pro formas. And after you have a pro forma, like I do with clients, when you have a pro forma in front of you, and you're looking at some other way, preferably like I know Ray is doing, look at licensing, look at franchising, right? Look at both. Then you could answer the question. So say, you're looking to do that. The question would be more like this. Okay, so here's the business model. Here's what I envision, right? And what would it cost me? What investment am I looking at to get to 50 units, let's just say? Because when we do the math on your projected royalty, we know that you're going to get to a place that will be attractive to private equity, let's just say, right? And then we can reverse engineer that and say, okay, to get to 50, this way would cost you this, that way would cost you this way would cost you that. And all these different ways, this is kind of the money coming out of the back end of it. So if there's anything I could leave you with, there's a couple of thoughts I would like to leave you with, and that is this. If you have a small business today, you should absolutely be talking to somebody who knows something about franchising. Just keep talking, right? Get comparative, find someone to help you, find someone enthusiastic about you and your business. One of the most surprising things when we work with a business and we introduce those people to private equity and folks to acquire you and all. And by the way, acquisitions are being made at every stage, every single stage. We just saw one of the folks I'm working with locally here, before the FDDs and the documents were even stroked, even done, the potential of entertaining offers is in front of him. I mean, it just is happening. There's so much activity. There's so much activity today. Private equity has too much money. They can't put it all in real estate. And what they're now seeing is, not right now, it's always been there, but the increase, the 10x of the attention we have here is because if you look at franchising, because your franchisees are signing a 5 or more often, way more often 10-year, sometimes 20-year agreement to be in your business, franchising is de-risked because there's proof under it, right? And it's capital efficient. And it's predictable revenue. So if you do it right and you are in the right category and you build the correct model, means you as a product was designed with the buyers in mind, like I said earlier, if you do that, and you get around the right people, the rest is easy because you're in the right category. Franchising, licensing can't do the same thing. MLM can't do this. Nothing can do what franchising can do in terms of a private equity buyer or someone who's going to acquire you, able to, look at those projections with the confidence that comes from those agreements. A lot of other reasons, but that's the key reason why it is a path that every small business, if you are successful or you could see success. We worked with this wonderful young entrepreneur. One of my partners and I went to Philly, and he has a noodle company, and it's just like, I shouldn't say noodle. It's not Asian. It's more Italian. So it's more like a pasta. And they make the pasta and he makes the sauce, and it's like amazing, and he's not profitable yet, right? But can see it. If you have a business, you're in it, you're doing it for a period of time, any period of time. Years ago, we would say, don't even talk to anyone unless you have at least 2 years of profitability, strong profitability, and 2 locations in 2 different demographic markets. If you have those 2 things, be prepared to spend $5,000. This was back in the 90s even, $5,000 for a feasibility study. We will come to you, you'll pay, and we'll figure out if you should franchise or not, and we'll tell you a little bit about where you should go. Today, don't spend money on that. You don't have to. There's a lot of people to talk to, and the internet can help a little bit as well. Yes, that's the first thing. So if you have a business, right, at any phase, if you can see success and profitability, you should be talking to folks. And getting yourself educated on what's possible, and it doesn't come easy. It might take a couple of weeks, couple of months to flesh it out. But there are folks like myself and my team here that talk to folks, and all over the place that are in this business because it's just growing so much. A lot of careers.
Is there ever an instance where it might be, okay, my business potentially is franchisable, but it's not franchisable now. So talk again in 6 months, 9 months, 18 months, whatever, you know what I mean? Is there sometimes, yes. So, I mean, obviously there's sometimes absolutely not, don't, your business is never franchisable. Don't even go down this route, or there's yes, it is, right? But there could also be a come back in, X number of months, and let's review again.
Yeah, that's excellent. That's an excellent point. I can just quickly share with you, like the way we do it. So like we'll talk to people for like a half hour or whatever, and we go through, websites, conversations, and we see if we should like do a deeper dive. And if we can, and that's easy because most of the times we will, right? And then the deeper dive is like just a couple of hours. And what we want to do is go through this thing about like poking at, learning, assessing the pieces of this business. And I got to tell you, there's only a couple of answers at that point, right? So if we do that deeper dive, and the most common, I would say the most common is going to be a yes. And it's either, yeah, we should engage with different people and begin the process of collecting and understanding these proposals and creating a pro forma, right? That's usually what we do. If not that, so like I would say like 90 or whatever, not 90, maybe 75% of the time, we're either doing that or we're saying, yes, we want to do that exercise, right? Which we'll do with you. But not now, like you said, like let's do that in 6 months, or let's do that in 9 months. It's never really more than like a year, most usually. And there's like one or two pieces in there that it's not ready. Like we're not cooked, not baked. So you don't have to be perfect. And usually those things have to do, I would say primarily with not having your arms around your key metrics. Or not having your arms around your marketing execution. Like you're successful, but you don't know why. So if we can't duplicate that, you need a little bit of help to figure this out. Sometimes it's funding. Usually, we're close there. Or it's operational. There's something operational around HR or something like that. The other piece is if you're not replaceable, not immediately, but within the foreseeable 6 months or 1 year ahead. If you can't lift out of that business, that's a whole nother need for some coaching. And I personally think at that juncture, if you're not already working with SCORE, here's a resource there's so many different talent inside of SCORE that they're going to do. It's amazing. You have CFOs and CEOs and these great people, and they kind of will partner with you and fill the gap. And then we circle back, and then we go in the process of collecting all we have to collect to lay it out to make a really educated decision.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to just give you my business card here. And if anyone on the call or if you want to contact me, certainly send me a text and let's talk. My team and I here love to have in-depth conversations with you and answer more questions. And if anything, give you answers or introduce you to the people that have the answers so that you could have an enjoyable and educational and insightful and very transparent, kind of walk down this path before you make any decisions. But don't wait though. People should be looking at this route because it's so exciting. Kid in a candy store is kind of what it feels like.
One quick question as well, which is what do buyers look for when they purchase a franchise? What is the buyer looking for?
So I'm going to stop the share if you don't mind. I can do that, right? We can just.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. That's a really good question. There are, like I said earlier, there's generally two different buyers, right? So you have the folks that want a transitional path out of corporate America, or they just want to have this side gig that's really going to be a wealth building entity, right? So those folks tend not to be concerned about the product or service and category as much. In other words, obviously, the more active the ownership is, the more there has to be correlation between, what they want, what they can do well, and the business. So semi-passive, they're not looking for that. Semi-passive owners, and they're not looking for huge profitability either. They're much more realistic, and they don't need a very fast ramp up either. So they're great buyers. So what they want is a business that is dependent on technology to the degree of, to a good degree, so that this idea of not being active is real. Like you can never have to make the donuts, like you can because you have a job, right? So they want a sophisticated system that is proven out, that it can be run through a manager and through having their arms around the key metrics. So you have to have sophistication around that. My personal opinion is that we don't want to see food for these people, even though there's a lot of semi-absentee food. It's just harder unless it's a simple food. So the service businesses do very well. And then they want to make sure that you really understand the HR component of this thing, because again, they can't do that, right? So those are the two key things, and they're long-term players, right? So they're not looking for the latest hot thing. They're looking for automotive. They're looking for kid-related. They're looking for home services. They're looking for these, right? These recession-resistant, solid, long-term growth. You know, budget hair, for example, isn't the most attractive category. There's not the most profit in those, you know, like a Supercuts, a Fantastic Sam's, but they're generally sold out. You know, it's just repeat business, and the Flowbee's not coming back anytime soon. Remember that or no?
Yep, I remember that.
Flowbee. You guys that are young, you don't know the Flowbee, but look it up, Google it. Now, the career replacers, very good question on that. What do they need? I would say on average, you know, your business has to be netting about 100 grand to be attractive. It has to be netting out 100 grand to be attractive to someone who's buying a business, because people who are in a position to buy a business are accomplished people, or we're not talking to them, right? They're accomplished. They're used to making 100 grand or more, 100, 200, 300, or they're used to making 70, 80, 90, and they want to break 100. And 100, 150 grand, you know, somewhere reasonable too, like not year one, obviously not, but it has to be within their vision. So that's what they're looking for. And that's across all categories and all different models. That's a really good question.
Great. Okay, so it is 11:58. I am actually going to end it here because I think we've given a lot of really, really good information, and I really, Mariel, thank you so much for all the info that you've given and the work you put into this. As we said at the beginning of the call, this will be available on our YouTube channel. So just give us a couple of days to get it up there. And also, don't forget, this is going to be a series of webinars. So watch our email, Facebook, LinkedIn pages to get the next one. I believe the next one is going to be Wednesday in August, a month from now. So is that August the 13th, I believe, whatever that Wednesday is, but it will come out, and then they'll be monthly from then on out. So hope everybody found today informative. And if you have any questions, as Mariel said, please feel free to reach out to her. She did put her phone number at the end of this, but if anybody needs it, just reach out to SCORE and we can provide that to you as well. And that's it. I think that's all I have. Thank you again, everybody, for joining. Mariel, thank you so much. Really appreciate your time and your support. It's been really, really valuable information today. So thank you.
Thanks for having me. We'll get into the weeds next time and have some special guest people. And by the end of this thing, have all the money people here to be introduced to your audience. So it'll be a lot of fun to work together.
Thank you very much. All right, everybody, see you soon. Bye.
Bye.